esse programa é o Brasil, para que nós tenhamos informação clara sobre como o nosso país vai sobreviver diante desse grande megaprojeto.
Another problem is that they have information that this project is very similar to a project that is provided in Brazil that has caused a lot of devastation using chemical products to create health problems for the communities. And they have very little information. There is very little communication on how this is implemented. It's very different so far now. It's the same as the one they know that affects Brazil, and they've seen some people there resisting. That is abuse this problem, and people have really no way to understand how this is.
O outro problema é que o que nós sabemos, a pouca informação que nós temos, o que vai ser cultivado nesse milhão de soja, e moçambicanos não comem soja. Não é a nossa cultura consumir soja. A gente come milho, feijão, e não é isso que vai ser produzido. O que nós sabemos é o que vai ser produzido lá, soja vai ser transportado para alimentar gado no Japão. E nós precisamos de alimentação, precisamos de terra para viver.
One of the problems there right now is that this land will be used to cultivate soy. She's saying most of the don't consume soy, it's not part of the culture. They consume corn. This soy they know is going to be used to export to cattle in Japan. So they are fighting to have the right to use the land for the culture, the agriculture they is part of their own culture.
Okay. Eu venho aqui representando a Marcha Mundial das Mulheres. E como Marcha, tem que dizer quais são as consequências desse projeto, desse megaprojeto para as mulheres. 52% da população moçambicana é população. E é a parte da população que era por causa do trabalho. É a população que de alimentar a família, de buscar água, que muitas vezes é a água que é fluída por esses grandes megaprojetos. É a população feminina que mais trabalha a terra para ter recursos para sobreviver. E é essa mesma população que não tem alfabetização. Então, as mulheres moçambicanas, a maior parte dessas zonas onde o programa está operado, não tem capacidade para negociar. E o que nós sentimos é que, enquanto nós usamos esse projeto, que tem continuidade no nosso país, está aqui.
Also here representing the World Market Women. As part of the World Market Women, she really wants to talk about the consequences of this project on market women. She thinks 52% of the population in Mozambique are composed of women. And women are the population that is working on the land because of the sexual division of labor that is in the culture of Mozambique. They also are the ones that go get water from the rivers, and these are the rivers that are going to be polluted also by this project. These also, they needed resources to survive. And one added problem to these that she's saying is that a lot of these women are also illiterate, have very little capacity to actually negotiate and bargain with the project that is coming onto their land. And they know that even though as they are fighting these right now, this project is being advanced as we speak.
Sem tomar um minuto de falar, o programa é vasto e tem muitos problemas. Mas o que nós estamos a fazer para resistir a eles é informar a população que não tem informação sobre o projeto. Nós temos uma lei de terra muito boa que dá direito às mulheres a uso e aproveitamento de terra. Entretanto, para ter o acesso a certificado para uso é muito caro e as mulheres não têm dinheiro para ter esse certificado para usar a terra. Então, o que nós estamos a fazer é, de fato, passar informação legal para as mulheres resistirem a esse programa e trabalhar com os governos possam transmitir a informação real sobre esse problema da população. Porque se nós estamos a sentir, esse governo vai lá, o governo moçambicano, o governo brasileiro e o governo japonês, e dizer que esse programa é o melhor programa do mundo e que está aí para ajudar os moçambicanos. Entretanto, nós sentimos que não. Estamos a lutar contra esse programa, passando a informação e dizendo à população que não pode aceitar sem que tenha informação clara sobre o que é que eles recebem, quando vai e como esse projeto vai operar.
Thank you very much. I have a lot still to talk, but there's no much time left. This is a very vast project. Actually, in Mozambique, we have a good land law, but still recognizing the right of women of access to land. But these lands, to have access to these lands, you need to have resources, and these women don't have resources. Part of the struggle of resistance they are carrying is to talk to these women, to provide them the legal information of the rights they are entitled to, and also talk to the government to ensure that they eventually will give the right information about the project. So far, the three governments, Brazil, Mozambique, and Japan, have been talking about this project. This is the best thing ever for Mozambique. So they know this is not true, and they have been trying to mobilize people, especially women, to counter really this project.
O problema é que são três países, e Moçambique, que é o país onde vai ser operado o problema, é o país mais pobre. Os outros têm mais recursos. O Brasil tem mais conhecimento, não tem mais recursos financeiros. E o país onde vai ser operado, onde vão ter problemas, é um país que não tem recursos, nem capacidade técnica e nem financeira, e então reduz a capacidade de negociação. Quando nós contactamos o governo moçambicano diz que não tem muita informação sobre isso. Mas ele tem a responsabilidade de se proteger. E o governo japonês diz que não, quem tem que falar com os moçambicanos é o governo moçambicano. O brasileiro também diz que então nós estamos numa encruzilhada em que não sabemos claramente quem vai falar sobre a real situação do nosso trabalho. Mas nós temos consciência de que o que tem responsabilidade é esse governo que tem que nos dar informação. Então, estamos a trabalhar com organizações da sociedade civil e movimentos no Brasil e no Japão para ajudar a nós. Esse está o nosso
Mozambique, where the actual harms are going to be made, is the poorer one, the one with less resources, the one that has less capacity bargaining, doesn't have either financial or technical resources. When they talk to the Mozambican government, they actually say they have very little information about the project itself. And when they talk to the other governments, they say you have to talk to the Mozambican government. So they're actually the deadlock. So they have no real channels of communication there with the project. But also they understand it is the Mozambican government who has to protect the rights of Mozambican population. And that's why also they are building networks with social movements from the other countries to have support for their struggle locally.
Now we will listen to Brian Obama from Morocco. He will tell us about the troubles in Morocco. Sorry, he's not on that one.
Attaque CADT Maroc. On parlait un peu de... Oui. Donc, pour parler d'unité nationale et le pouvoir qui est un peu accentué et augmenté ces dernières décennies au Maroc, donc le pouvoir de l'unité nationale qui est accentué et augmenté ces deux dernières décennies au Maroc grâce aux politiques de privatisation des politiques néolibérales, des idées politiques sectorielles qui a mené l'État marocain pour attirer les investissements extérieurs au pays. Si l'État marocain a mené une politique des enfranches de l'export, on a plusieurs enfranches, la zone franche congénée qui est au nord et des zones franches à Tanger qui est aussi du sud du Maroc. Ces diverses politiques ont permis aux multinationales d'accaparer des secteurs stratégiques et de des secteurs comme les banques, les assurances, la finance, such as the banks and insurance, les secteurs comme la gestion des liquides, de l'eau, de l'électricité et de l'assainissement,
and until the companies of legal,
aussi des secteurs comme l'industrie et l'agriculture,
especially the sectors of industry and agriculture.
Cette augmentation du pouvoir de multinationales a créé un problème maintenant à l'État marocain.
This augmentation of the multinational,
Le rapportement des multinationales augmente de presque 2 milliards de dirhams, qui aggrave la déficit financière de l'État marocain envers l'extérieur.
was already implemented in 2013 to
2 milliards,
2 million dollars.
Nous, en tant qu'Attaque de Maroc, nous sommes depuis le début des années 2000 contre cette implantation des multinationales.
Since 2002, we are combating this multinational.
Nous sommes dans des grandes luttes qui a connu le Maroc depuis des années contre la néonisation et la Veolia qui a accaparé la gestion déléguée de l'eau, l'électricité et l'assainissement.
We have engaged ourselves to this combat against this multinational policies.
Cette implantation, il est ici contre la volonté du peuple, il est ici antidémocratique et contre même les élites locaux.
These policies are against the will of the people.
On a connu des augmentations des tarifs, des augmentations des factures pour le peuple marocain qui se contre ces multinationales.
There is a great increase in the prices and tariffs in Morocco due to these policies.
Ça, c'est dans les 3 grandes villes du Maroc, Casa, Rabat et Franche.
These are in the three great towns in Morocco, Rabat and Tanja and Casablanca.
Donc, on a vu des grandes villes, mais toujours il y a la restriction,
We have seen great combat against this repression,
il y a l'arrestation des militants et de lutte dans le prison.
and the militants are put up in jail or put in the prison.
Ces villes se reproduisent dans toutes les dernières années, surtout dans les luttes contre la vie chère.
This combat is engaged against the high price of the high standard living of the high prices.
Et au cours de l'UNIS, nous voulons intégrer des printemps arabes, des slogans contre les multinationales qui sont des slogans phares dans les villes.
The anti-multinational slogans, especially during the Arab Spring, against these policies.
Aujourd'hui, même dans les grandes franges, par exemple en Guinée, où il y a l'implantation des grands multinationales comme Renault, Bouygues, Bombardier.
These combats are mainly against the implantation of great companies as the Renault, the French company, and Boeing.
Il y a l'interdiction de tout travail syndical.
There is an interdiction of any social movement in Morocco.
C'est dans le secteur agricole, on vit des luttes contre, par exemple, le multinational de Saint-Jean.
There is in the agricultural sector, there is also a combat against the intervention of
Saint-Jean.
yeah.
Ils ont oublié l'environnement, pomper l'eau, donc ils ont pris divers.
They have polluted the land and tried up water is working.
On peut citer par exemple le lutte contre le TGV marocain monté par Absent français.
Also the combat against the Moroccan TGV.
On a vu dans 2 ans précédents la montée d'un coalition où Attaque Maroc est l'un des co-organisateurs de cette coalition.
In the last 2 years, also there is a consultation of this orientation towards the coalition
On est aussi dans une coalition contre le multinational groupe 4 Sécurité.
against the multinational group, or
Donc on est au Maroc aujourd'hui contre ces pouvoirs-là de multinationales qui a créé des bénéfices de l'État marocain qui est très possible.
the Moroccan government is really benefiting from this multinational movement.
on mène aussi maintenant une campagne de sensibilisation contre un accord de libre-échange, contre conflit approfondi avec l'Union européenne.
So there is also a movement against the liberal against the European Union.
Où une grande nouveauté de ce accord, il y a la protection judiciaire du multinational.
The Morocco government protected this judiciary acts or laws towards this politics.
Et aussi ouverture de nouveaux secteurs qui sont un peu fermés jusqu'à maintenant pour les multinationales, c'est le secteur des finances et d'assurance.
And the opening of new sectors, especially in the financial sector.
Secretary to explain us the corporate structure at the highest level right now.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to talk hopefully quite slowly in English, stop me otherwise. I'm going to talk this December. There were UN climate talks. Has anyone heard of them? Raise your hand if you've heard of them. There's still about a third of the room who hasn't heard of them. So all governments are supposed to come together to sign this global treaty to save the climate. It's called COP21. And unfortunately, maybe I'm pessimistic, but I don't think it's going to succeed. And it's maybe in the name. COP21. This means this is the 21st time we've tried to do this. And unfortunately, things have not changed. What we're seeing, captured at the highest level by what we call vested interest. More simply, very narrowly, fossil fuel companies. And those who are causing climate change. Those who are digging up environments, digging up local communities and territories to burn our economy. And unfortunately, moving away from this practice of digging up oil, coal, gas, these things cost us a lot of money. These are multi-billion dollar, euro, pound corporations, and moving away will be very expensive. So they're trying to do all they can to stop us actually tackling climate change, because tackling climate change is completely turning around our economies and ultimately losing them lots of money, which will be very costly. But it's not just fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are at the center of our economy, but so many other corporations from the financial sector that finance them, to other corporations who rely on this deregulatory agenda, are all linked up in this battle as well. So what we see at both the highest level, the UN, where we're supposed to be talking about this, as well as at the national level, is that there's a real push against policies which can tackle climate change. This might explain why Canada has turned up to the recent talks and pulled out of all commitments. Canada that has a massive task with Shell, we've got TransCanada on here as well. While the US is now coming to climate talks and talking about embracing clean energy. By clean energy, the US means fracking. This is what the US now considers clean. So you see also the co-optation of language from real solutions to fracking. And while Australia has not so I think interestingly here, quite obvious, the economy and economic interest, Trump's social interest, Trump's environmental interest, very simply. But the ways this is done, I mean, as I said, these countries arrive at the UN effortlessly, which is these negotiations, having already made up their minds that they're not going to get this deal in the interest of all of us and the environment. So this means a lot of the lobbying behind closed doors stuff happens at national level. The countries arrive have already made up their minds. And this happens through various means. And there's more information at the back of our report, but very briefly, through something called the revolving door. So big companies, Shell, Exxon, Chevron, will hire ex-government officials so they can then have their little black book of contacts and have access at the highest levels. Ex-ministers are going to work for Endesa in Spain. Ex-prime ministers are going to work for Endesa, Spain's biggest gas utility. Cool. Very quick. I should talk quicker. But they also make sure their employees from Chevron, Shell, etc., go into government so they have this high level of access. We have parliamentarians having second jobs, their energy companies, as well as for a political party representing the public in parliament. But of course, it's in the UN talks as well. We saw in Warsaw by gas and oil companies, Polish gas and oil companies, Emirates Airlines, who are not exactly a pro-climate change. And whilst in Lima last year, in December, business came out, all of the business came out and said, we need to be in the negotiations much more. Our role is not big enough. They want to have a place at the negotiating table, is what they were calling for. So at the moment, we have our government, they want to be there alongside. But this doesn't have to be the case. If I'm very honest, they have no right to be anywhere near our political leaders, anywhere near the people that we trust to make public policy. This division between vested interest, big industry, who's only worried about its bottom line profit versus the public. Actually, in tobacco, in the World Health Organization, another UN institution, they realized that the tobacco industry was so diametrically opposed to public interest, the tobacco industry can have no contact or very, very limited and completely transparent contact with public health policymakers. This is called Article 5.3 in the WHO, the World Health Organization. It shouldn't just apply to tobacco, it should apply to fossil fuels. It should apply to the point where we're devouring our economy and not us. And so this is something that can apply everywhere. And hopefully, this year, both before and during Paris in these climate talks, we're going to expose this close, cozy relationship between the industry and our government. Thank you.
And the story of resistance. We know this is only few cases of all the resistance happening around the world in defense of the territory. And as Marco was showing us, it is not only corporations attacking and committing crimes against the communities, but also capturing the state and the international institutions. So what we have seen during the years of resistance is that these crimes are systemic and systematic. And as part of this process, we said it is important to come all of us together and provide a response. And the global campaign is part of that response to strengthen these resistances, to come together, and at the same time to try to make some pressure on corporations, on governments, to demand from them a real response and to dismantle the corporate power. So now Alberto and Rick will tell us better what is this campaign, and they will facilitate the next part to go dive into the campaign and see how are we going to dismantle the power of corporations. Sorry, Alberto Bonilla.
Oui, Pierre. Oui, Pierre.
So before talking about the
Oui, en fait, mais déjà j'ai publié le lien dans le groupe.
Sari is going to give a last testimony, right? It's just arrived on the certificate travel.
Oui.
I'm celebrating from Latin American
Ouais, d'accord. Donc, combien... Oui, deux volontaires.
If you think about it, can anyone be doing
Oui, oui. Maintenant, je suis en train de... Les autres membres ont des choses à faire, à filmer, à faire le café. J'ai déjà... Ah, personnellement, tu veux que je m'en occupe de... Oui. Ok. Mhm. 14 heures.
But it's also increasingly becoming a place where we're exploited, spied on, where the person will become suddenly
The handout.
without that consent. And with this present trend, the internet is dangerously leading us to societies of vigilance and corporate monopoly on a scale that's never been seen. The largest and fastest growing US corporations are called internet corporations.
Avec ESN.
The companies we built trust on, trusted with their information when their communications have violated that trust. And they're working hand in hand with the security agencies
D'accord.
Well, this concern, the person exposition was born a year ago, worked for
D'accord, Pierre. D'accord.
It was initially convened by people who have been fighting for greater democracy in the circles of internet government. And the very concern about multi-stakeholder model of governance, which is government, civil society, and private companies, could become a prototype for global governance in other areas with a difference. At least climate is the cost. Yeah? In internet, we don't even have that. It's the US government and it's multinational corporations. And then it's there, but it's never and the US government refuses to allow any multilateral decision making in the area. Not that multilateral is always ideal, but there are areas of public policy where we need democratic. So, the people who have felt marginalized in these circles of internet government realized we needed to build a much broader people's movement to fight for and build a people's internet. And that's what we're proposing here. One of the strategies we're proposing is to hold an internet social forum. We hope to link it to the World Social Forum process. That's something yet to be decided. The Internet Social Forum will be a place where you're debating issues, debating alternatives, how to build a broader movement, and to link the existing spaces, such as this one, but also fighting So we want to invite you to invite yourself to tomorrow. We'll be painting at this research. Other processes might be from India, and we think it's really important. So the different campaigns should realize the strategy of campaigns and the concentration. international cooperation, as well as in the people region, an alternative that has been used in struggle from the bottom, the popular struggle, to protect transnational cooperation. So, 10 minutes each, maybe we begin with
Hello to everybody. It's a workshop with all of you to see here so many, again, so many bad corporations all over the world. So, as Monica and Lida have said, we want to make also the relationship between the structural causes of the situation of corporate crime and impunity. So we went last week to Frankfurt in Germany. There was a demonstration of activists from all over Europe against the European Central Bank. So one of the most powerful institutions, I would not only say in the European Union, but also in the world. And this was the way how we were received. And you see those Robocops, yeah? There were like for 10,000, and in the morning we went there out in the street. There were 10,000 Robocops to receive us, yeah? They inaugurated the new building of the European Central Bank, which is just a symbol, because Mr. Mario Draghi, which is the head of the European Central Bank, comes from Goldman Sachs. And Goldman Sachs recommended some years ago to the Greek government to manipulate the official economic data. This was even years before we were here about a crisis of the euro and rescue packages for the Greeks and so on and so forth. Well, since then, you know that Greece was a laboratory for the new wave of neoliberal offensive, of structural adjustment programs. Yeah. So what I want to put out here is that after many years, even in Europe, poverty, uprising unemployment, just one data for Greece. Out of 11 people living in Greece, with this neoliberal offensive, 3 million have no access to public health systems. And there were people dying because of cancer, because they have no access to the treatment of cancer in the hospitals. And we could give many other data, but the main point is that the Greek people, after years of struggle, after years of fighting in the streets, making strikes, they voted a new government. And this government was elected to rescue the people who are suffering from the economic and social crisis. But the European Union is a perfect example how you create the institutions, the policies, and a market, and a common currency to not allow alternatives happen, to not fight against this corporate institutionally architecture of impunity. Because during several years, there were institutions looking to the Greek government to make sure that the debt is being paid to the creditors. But there was no EU institution looking to the human rights violation systematically held and put into place in Greece all over these years. And when I say Greece, I can say many other countries, of course. So what we are in this moment, we are in the moment of historical opportunities for political and social changes, not only because of this example of Greece, but the changes in Greece makes also changes happening, impossible changes in other parts of Europe. But now we are fighting in the Pacific region between EU and the US and on multilateral level, a new way of trade and investment agreement. Transatlantic trade and investment agreement, Trans-Pacific agreement, and also the secret deal of TISA. Yeah, there were a lot of workshops here talking about that. But one main goal, the government, the political and economic powers are looking to, is to throw away completely the equality before the law. And they do it on the corporate bonfire. So what is going on is, it's like a profundization of the neoliberal attack we were living in the last 40 years. And they are still need to perfectionize this architecture of impunity. Because we had a perfect system working for the capitalist market, but now they are still going one way. So there's still space to propound the system and to squeeze more the population. And what we are seeing now is abandon completely one of the fundamental principles of justice, which is equality before the law. So this is very important. And we have a privatization of law by another law, because trade and investment agreements are just a very fundamental imposition of very deep, hard law. So when we have seen systematic human rights violations by economic systems in the last 40 years, so they want to make sure, on the one hand, that this stays like that. Secondly, if there's alternative government, they have a straight jacket, so they cannot go out of the political and economic hegemonic system which is right now in code. And this is both on multilateral level, on national level, and even it goes so profoundly deep that the new trade agreement and investment agreement, each the municipal, the regional government policies and administration. And of course, they have created already a complete separate private political system, which we are seeing is imposing another way of doing economy. Yeah, you have heard about the investor-to-state dispute settlement, which I don't want to go profound into it, but it's a huge opportunity we have now, like an open window we have. There is a mounting movement all over the world to stop this corporate rights and an agreement. And what we want to show here, the clear linkages against corporation are the same struggle against those trade and investment agreements. They are just one step to perfectionize their system, which means to ride directly together, government and corporations, all the law. So they want to eliminate the last existing social, environmental, and labor acts, because in some countries they are still existing, some of those, for example, the right to have trade unions, but this right is now under hard pressure in the European Union, for example, and in many other places, of course. So we will prevent this step to make this new wave of trade investment deals happening. Yes? And that's why it's so important to show the linkages between
I think he's made the main message, which is that the trade and investment agreements that I think many of us are fighting for not only now, but for maybe ever since the council was into Chile 40 years ago. This whole nexus with corporate power is so important. And I think the other linkage is the one which Pasco made, the linkage between the whole lobbying system and the revolving doors, and when from one day to another, we don't know whether we're dealing with a government official or a CEO of a corporation or their first cousin, you know? So I think what we try to do in the campaign is exactly to bring that nexus together. And maybe to maybe explain or share a little with you about, you know, the call of the campaign. The call of the campaign actually, the call to action, it was born actually over the year 2011 and 12. It's a call to action. On the one hand, to build people's sovereignty. So to take, well, to carry forward actually what people are doing in their resistances against that we had already examples here in the room. But I mean, you know, I think we have millions of these examples. This campaign is therefore very much built on those resistances. The other aspect of the campaign is the protagonism of people's struggle. That what we need to do across this various campaigns, the single campaign, is to build a new convergence. And the third aspect, of course, is we need to engage with some historic opportunities. I think most of you know that also as a result of struggle, engagement, persuasion, pressure on government, we managed to get a new opening in the US. We all know the WASH and the SCAR and the capture that's going on in the UN. At the same time, this is the only multilateral body we have. So we managed there to get a majority, a small majority of governments, which were the governments of some of the governments of Latin America, especially the small and Andean countries where, you know, their resistance has inspired, the people's resistance has inspired efforts at least of the different kinds of governments, plus Africa, plus the African government. We had the extraordinary, I mean, for those of us who are European citizens, we had the extraordinary demonstration of Europe, the collapse of sovereignty in Europe as far as the unity of cooperation is concerned. Not one European government had anything to say, only what the European Commission was saying. This whole effort to put a binding treaty on the table is untimely. This is not the time. But if it's not the time now, when will be the time? So that's our story. As you can see, our call to build sovereignty, but also to dismantle corporate power, we see these things interface. We don't see that on the one hand we create the possibility of alternatives, and on the other hand we have resistance. No, we try to put the two together. The strategies of the campaign, we are following two tracks. On the one hand, and this we believe is very, very important, we are building and creating a space, a political space and process called the People's Treaty. This is know, that we are in the process of systematizing our proposals for an alternative, our response to the corporate power capture. And this also is on two dimensions. One is that we believe that law, the international law, has to be rebuilt from the bottom. And we also believe that this cannot be done unless we have a concentrated strength and accumulated strength of people's alternatives. And this will go hand in hand. This is the People's Treaty part of our strategy. The other is engaging strongly and broadly with the UN, the Intergovernmental Working Group, which was created by the UN mandate in last June. And in this before mobilization. So in terms of, we have here this is a booklet, I think it's the most popular in WSS. You haven't seen it all yet. So the secret here, how do we concentrate our power, our energy to build a counterpower to a different world, but to also create and build a different world. Actually, for the People's Treaty, we have it's on the internet, and we apologize, our printer didn't get it to us on time. We have here a base document of alternatives. This has been built from all around the world. We will be in a process this year to discuss, promote, new on this process. This will create the political, absolute political energy, the political power that we need to engage with the corporate world. And we hope that those of you who are not already on the road with us, you will be on the road with us, create the road with us. And we have a political calendar also this year, which interacts actually with all the major moments against the defeated, the moments against cost, but also moments that we define, which are the moments like Tunis, where we actually make a new trajectory, together. So this is the space where we invite you to be part, and we hope we go stronger by today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Also, I will just brief before the whole class. Ms. Brenner from the Transnational Institute of and myself as well as myself from Friends of the Earth, the National Base in Uruguay. Monica from the Observatory on Death and Research in Barcelona. Before I invite our next speaker, I think it is obvious that to turn or raise the power of corporations, we need to not only continue to struggle in our local level, and continue supporting our local struggle, we need not only to develop like a covenant of the people against corporate power, and that's the People's Treaty, to continue struggling and to develop the principles on which we must stay our economic situation, but we need also politicians and political activists that are willing corporations as a revolving door and all these things that also as a regulate and stop the power of corporations and protect the state from being taken over from the small corporations. I welcome our last speaker in this section, who is the convener or the spokesperson of the left section of the European Parliament, Gabi Zimmer. Welcome her.
Vale, if you can refresh it again and people who didn't try their contact and want to have more campaign, try to contact. The other point is that here we've got the calendar, Polish writing, the calendar of struggles against corporations. So if you got like a global action or global corporation, afterwards approach him and dear friends, I'm happy to be here, and as it was announced, I'm the chairwoman of the left group in the European Parliament. And first of all, I would like to explain that our group is the only group in the European Parliament where the women have the majority. We are more than 50% members of women members in this group. In our understanding, we know exactly that we can't change Europe, we can't change the world only with the Parliament. We have no illusions about our influence in the Parliament. We are a majority. We are a majority of the political world. This is clear. But we know also we have another majority in the social world, in the society at all. And to bring together all the people who are fighting for another world, it's necessary to combine struggle outside the Parliament with people in the Parliament. On the European level, on the EU level, and the national level, but also other regions of the world. And I want to explain why. Tom spoke about the corporations have a big influence on the decision-making process. Yes, it's right. And I can explain that we have a lot of examples of how they try to influence our decisions in the Parliament, but also directly in institutions as the Commission and the Council. They are sitting directly on the table. Look to Brussels. You have not only thousands of different lobbyists, you have also the biggest instrument of the lobbyism, the biggest organization that is sitting around the table of industry. And you are sitting directly in the Commission as the driver. And that's why it's one of our tasks, of our duties, to dismantle this kind of lobbyism, of the influence on the decision-making process. We have to fight for more transparency, and we have to also fight for a register of lobbies, that we can show why the laws are influenced by the different lobbies. We have to show. This is one point. The next point. I think a left group in the Parliament has to learn that there has to be also an address for the social rights of the Parliament. This is not automatic, because in our group we have different political parties from the left side, with different understanding, with different ideologies, and we have to learn that it's necessary to be open and to have a broader view of changing the world. And that we need to find new forms of 1% of cooperation between
can also hear. And we learn a lot from you. And for us, it's necessary that we bring all the examples. Look into, especially you have here the examples of the different corporations and crimes. They are responsible. We could add a lot of others. I could add from my experience group ThyssenKrupp and the steel company in State in Brazil. I could express a lot of such examples how they want to make their own profit. And that's why we have the possibility to bring it into Parliament, to combine it with public attention by the media. And to this organization, that's why we have to be an address for you. But it means also that you are going to your members and that you try to find out who could be a partner for you. We will support as a group. We call for dismantling cooperative politics. We will do it. We will also support the different organizations and also the different communities. We will bring together your fight on this our fight into Parliament against teaching and the other people communities. Because there is a direct link between cooperation and the European interest in European institutions. We will organize together with he and I, and who did last, I would like to go on in May or in June, common seminar, common events in the European Parliament, one is organized, and we will give you voice, not we will give the voice, but we will give you the voice to express your position directly in the Parliament with other parliamentarians and citizens. We have to go together, we have to change the world together. Thank you very much. So now we've got 15 minutes of not very questions, but it's comments. We just ask you to the more not 1 minute, right? Because we are a lot, and afterwards don't forget that this afternoon we have a workshop and scheduled to discuss. Okay, so this is not the last moment to talk. Okay? So. Louder, please.
Thank you very much to the organizers. First of all, to absolutely climate change was put in there. And you remember, got university students to study the climate heating up by human beings, and they had to influence Bush, which they did, which we love them. 10 years, 1.5. Good journey. Second, have you read the book by American French? The French is Mr. Pater. I recommend that. Yes. I just have a couple of minutes because I think I'd like to add what I call the phenomenon Mendelssohn. Tony Blair had a right swing. Mendelssohn joined Margaret Thatcher. I'm Irish, you know, I'm not African. To say there's no alternative. This phenomenon is, I'm the French Socialist Party. How does it penetrate? We elected François Hollande on our program. And he joined up with a near liberal idea. Now, how does that penetrate into some people who feel quite honest. And I'd like to know to try to reflect how the neoliberal ideology penetrates people. It's not only the money, there's some phenomenon. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much. No more race. I'm working for a corporate. I'm seeing things from another point. And I like to think sometimes about the way the legal framework is meant for the corporate from inside. So when people are working for corporate and you know that some decisions are against the environment or against the social, are having some social impact, we need a way how to give this information outside. And we need some corporate leaks like WikiLeaks or something like this with because there are many people in the corporate who want to work for the society. So that's the thing about the legal framework, how to change the things also together. Yeah.
If there are journalists in the room, if there are any, afterwards we can answer to, and also contact you with affected people like GMC.
Let's say brief. There was a direct question to you, you can explain, and then we can take another round of
Yeah, the question of the treaty, as I indicated outside in a very short time, this is a collaborative, participative process. As I indicated, on the website, I think you all have a copy of this magic booklet. Corporateimpunity.org, a base document, which is the contributions actually already of many who are engaged in the struggle against corporate power. The text, that's what we call it, it's a base document of proposals, ideas, but also of practices, especially on the alternatives in terms of food sovereignty, energy sovereignty, the question especially also of what to do with our democracies, because I think one of the earlier speakers gave the examples of the hijack actually of the whole democratic process, and we should remember that the World Economic Forum, which is the Economic Forum, has a mega proposal, and they, as we know, they have all the power of the corporations to implement it. And that is the question about multilateralism. The idea being that governments, more or less, are failing to govern, and the corporations have the answer. And this is written in black and white in this so-called global restructuring initiative. So we need actually also to develop very strongly how we consider to reclaim our democratic processes and to establish people's participation as a red thread, a no-go area in terms of the democratic processes. To get back to the question of how is the People's Treaty interacting with the Treaty Alliance? The Treaty Alliance was built, especially in 2014. The historic and members were involved in that. All organizing the Treaty Alliance, SIGSE, Transistors International, FIDH, International Commission of Jurists. These are organizations. This broad alliance was developed, was quite influential in the pressure created to the final vote. The alliance effort, our combined effort, was able to deliver 610 organizations from 95 countries to actually put a statement in front of the government. And this very also in the UN, because I think the new element also in the struggle with the UN is putting people back on the street. We reclaim the street, the process of the UN has got so institutionalized, we have to bring it to the streets. And as Gabby said, we have to bring it to the parliament also. But we really have to reclaim our own strategies and let governments know we are very, very serious about having a new hard law, the people's law.
Before we want to break up into smaller groups to have questions, no? Before we go out to lunch, no? But before we want to say a last round of very short comments or questions. Yeah. Yes. I think the board and the panel are very diverse, very focused session. I'm really based on my hope people with the commission meeting on Saturday will end up in a strong thing that is also focused on how to convert local struggles, whether it is on an international action day or whatever it is. But I think it was a really great session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gordon.
I'm working with a group that is trying to where we try to bring international delegations into Switzerland, so we have occupational funds. So if you know about local struggles against Syngenta or against pesticides, seeds in your country with links to Syngenta, please come forward. We'll try to build an international network. And please come forward 3-minute statements on video that we can project at the conference from the country or your struggle can be part of it. I would like you to ask which logistics you are.
We talked a lot about powers that the US, the European Union.
Pour le pays d'Arabe, maintenant, on sait que les pouvoirs, il y a des enquêtes, il y a des niveaux.
Business companies, corporations, and are also active in that architecture. Talk about those kind of dynamics and powers, so we need to be usable.
Depuis l'histoire de l'utilisation, il crée maintenant avec les humains, multinationales et les conséquences de la colonisation.
And simple colonization, and now that we use a model of power of multinational importance with emphasis on the fact that the peoples in our region also are suffering of the power of international in our region, that we can talk about it more openly.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments and the participation and the people that participated.
Corporations, some people mention the same corporation, for instance, in different places. How do we strengthen this? How can a campaign like and it's an open document. Through this process, we are exchanging, we're learning from how other groups, movements, different sectors of movements are building their own alternatives to face corporations. So how can this process of building together the people's city be a space to build counterpower? How can we discuss the different parts of the people's city, as we said, food sovereignty, feminist economy, and something we have